Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday, October 9th Salary Commission meeting. And we have the minutes, which I signed already. Should we discuss them? Okay. So, I don't know if everybody has been able to look at them, but there is the transcript of the interview in the last meeting. And I wanted to make sure that everybody kind of like glanced at that or a chance to make sure that it is correct. Can we take some time to, wow, do we have time for that?
Fully up to you.
Yeah.
I looked, I read through it pretty specific.
Yes.
And I didn't see any issues in it.
Yeah, okay. Let's just read for a few minutes, let's say 5:05 till 5:05, and if anybody has any issues, then we can discuss them.
I need to step away for just a second to grab my headphones, but I will be right back. I'll still have time to review.
Okay, anything incorrect or? Looks pretty good. I appreciate this house. For the transcription. That especially the Carson's like 1, 2, 3. Yeah. His faces was really nice to be able to see. Okay, let's move on to the staff presentation on our commission options.
Okay. So first of all, the other thing that was in your packet was that you had asked for is that, and I'm not sure this was the exact document that Councilmember Curd was referring to, because I remember him saying that he thought it was a 2-page document. But the report that I found that was put together this year, by the city, that was on community demographics, that is on our website. I gave that to you. And we can discuss that if you want, or if you have questions about it. But it basically goes through, income levels, education levels, race and ethnicity, language access, immigration, disability, various different demographics, economic, demographics, housing, all throughout, that basically are of that it's demographics of the Bothell community, essentially. And so if you have any questions, or we're gonna want to discuss that, let me know. I also put together, and I'll run through a short presentation on various options. What you requested last time is for us to come back with a high, medium, low option in regards to salaries, and we've done that, and I'm gonna go and I can describe some of the other stuff that you asked about in regards to health benefits, et cetera. And then answer any questions that you have. What we're trying to accomplish tonight is to consider these options for city council compensation and make preliminary decisions that will be then taken to a public hearing later, which is required by the ordinance. Unless, of course, you decide to take no action. If you took no action, no need for a public hearing. This would be our last meeting, and we're not looking for a vote tonight. Basically, we'll get a sense if there's a consensus at the end of a meeting, what you would like to take to the public hearing. And then after the public hearing, we would ask you to vote on a final decision. When we just schedule that meeting, and of course, we'll want to talk about the scheduling of that meeting as well. We go to the third slide. I can't read these slides. Okay.
More?
Yep. So we'll talk about salary options and related costs, benefit options and related costs. I'll have time for questions, and then mostly you all deliberate, and like I said, hopefully make a preliminary decision by consensus this evening. And if not, we can talk about, if you don't get to a preliminary decision and you need more time, we can talk about what that means. I did tell you in past meetings that tonight's the night if we decide that we need time past what I believe is the November 3rd deadline. I would need to know that tonight so we could take a resolution to city council for them to consider. Okay, so next slide. The question that we need to ask in regards to salary is this. Does the commission want to increase, decrease, or take no action on council salaries? And if the decision is to increase or decrease, by how much? Next slide. I'm going to show you three options. There are definitely more options. I'll explain why I did what I did with the options, and you can tell me if that's right or wrong. And if we need to go calculate different things, we can talk about that too. Option one is what I'm calling status quo plus COLA, which is a little more than what you asked for. Yeah, you had said you wanted your bottom option to be status quo, but I added in the COLA just because that's what we would do for any other position at the city. And so I thought, why not? If you were to choose this option, this is obviously the less of the three options. It would be a 2.6% increase. The council member's salary would be $21,300 annually. The deputy mayor would be $23,393 annually. And the mayor would be $24,993 annually. This is equivalent to the pay raise most Bothell employees will receive on January 1st. We have a very structured step pay scale here, which is pretty typical of most public sector union environments. 65 to 70% of our workforce is unionized, depending on the makeup of the staff and the time of year. Those staff folks who have been with the city for more than 5 or 6 years and sit at the top of the pay tables, their pay increase, unless they get promoted or move to a different position, is a cost of living adjustment. We do cost of living adjustments based upon CPI June to June. And the reason we do that is because that's what our labor contracts require. And that usually is passed on to non-represented employees as well. And that increase is 2.6 this year. And if you chose this option, that would place council members 0.57% above the median of neighboring cities. If you recollect, we looked at the council compensation of neighboring cities, and that report is in your packets if you would like to look at it. So basically, this increase would put you just above the median of neighbor cities. And it would place council members' salaries 68% below 50% of median household income in Bothell. So much below that mark that we talked about last week. And the total increase to the city budget, which is would be $3,926, which isn't honestly anything that we would even think twice about from a budget administration standpoint. Lauren.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify on the median neighboring cities. I remember that we started with one list and then we added in more like geographically like co-located cities. Is this median based on geography or based on kind of the original list that was sort of pulled in a different way?
It's based on the data that we gathered and collected this time around, which was the
Okay, the
geographic.
second time. Okay, cool.
The geographic
Okay, cool.
cities, yep.
Perfect.
This is our neighbors, Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond, Woodinville, Kenmore, Mill Creek, Edmonds,
Okay. Cool.
Shoreline, Issaquah. We added Auburn, and we had a discussion why we were adding Auburn to that list,
Right,
but
right.
that's the median. Okay,
Cool. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
yep. And then next slide, you all talked about having a document like other cities have that sort of explains the justification for why you're making the decision you're making. And so I attempted to, and you'll see this with all the options, sort of outline the reasons, potential reasons. It's really your reasons, so I can't say that these are the reasons, but these are some potential reasons that you might choose option one, which is the status quo plus COLA. So number one, it avoids staff perception that elected officials are being treated differently because it's in line with how city employees will be getting pay increases for most of them anyway. It demonstrates fiscal responsibility. Obviously, it's the lowest of the cost of the three options. Less politically or publicly controversial. This is a lot like other salary commission decisions that have been made in the past, and there's been zero even public input on those decisions, so not a controversial decision at all. It recognizes that council had received a 33% increase 1 year ago, and I think the only point with that is that there was a salary commission last year. They did make a significant investment in council salaries. You could potentially feel like, well, that was a significant investment last year. Maybe 1 year later is not the right time, potentially. This is, of the options, likely more aligned with pay increases given to members of the community in the sense of, most individuals get anywhere from a 0 to 5% pay increase every year. It aligns with public sector and COB, City of Bothell compensation practices tied to the COLA, tied to the fact that it's just 0.57% above the median at the city. There's no hard requirements in regards to market data. There are reasons that positions are paid outside of the market, but in general, our philosophy is to have positions as close to the median as market as possible, but we like them to be above rather than below, and we try to keep that within 5%. So that's in line with our compensation practices at the city. And then the role is not being overcompensated as it compares to the market. Whether that's a factor or not that sways you, it could be a reason. And there's no distortion of public service nature of the position, which is something that some of the council members brought up in the survey, is that they feel like that this is a public service oriented position, and it's compensated just fine. That's not the opinion of all the feedback you got in the survey, but it was from some of the members. So that's some reasons that you might look at option one. Option two. Option two is the middle option. I wanted to do my best to tie these options to some sort of data or indicator. And the middle option, because you gave me a top option and you said, we want that to be 50% of the median income. And the low option is as close to zero. I did a lot of thinking about what could a middle option be tied to. And what I came up with was based on some comments that some of you made in earlier meetings about, so there's all those cities out there and they have various reasons of why they make these decisions. And some of them may be in line with Bothell's reasons, some of them may not. But what are the cities that are out there that are making those decisions and trying to create more access to public office and take into account fairness in regards to the workload and the time commitment from city council members? And so what I came up with is, instead of looking at the average of all cities, just taking those 5 cities. And some of those cities should be very familiar to you because we've talked about them in the sense of they've been the cities that have been part of this discussion about equity and fairness and things of that nature. In those 5 cities are Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond, which has had these discussions. Kirkland's definitely had them. We've talked a lot about Kirkland. Issaquah, which is another city that's been a part of this discussion, and Edmonds has been part of the discussion too. Although Edmonds might not be in the top 5, it may be Auburn. I can't remember, but we can go look at that if we need to, or if you want to. And so this is the middle option. It's not as high as the top, but it's not as low as the low. If you were to pick this option, council member's salary would be $31,544 annually. The deputy mayor would be $34,645 annually, and the mayor would be $30,015 annually, and it amounts to a 51.95% increase. So almost 52%. If you chose this option, you would be placing council members 48.93% above the median of neighboring cities. They would still be 17.85% below the highest city, which is the city of Kirkland. And they would be 52% below the 50% of median household income in Bothell, Washington. The total increase of this is $78,420 to the city budget annually. That number is bigger, obviously. I did have a conversation with the city finance director. He felt like we would definitely put that amount of money into a city budget amendment. And so essentially, when we take a budget amendment to the city council, it would say that we were increasing the budget $78,420 for the purposes of paying for council salaries. But he had no concerns about a city absorbing that cost. And so we do a budget amendment for things to adjust the budget in the middle of the budget, which is coming up here in a few months, and but not really a question of whether or not the city could absorb that cost financially. Lauren?
Yeah, just question again. I know I could look this up, but my computer is so slow, I'm not going to try. Can you remind me, like, percent of the city budget? Like, I mean, I appreciate the, like, qualitative, this is not a significant change, but like, this is a small percentage of the overall city budget, correct?
Yes. By
Okay.
like less than.
I calculated about a third of 1%. Lot of
Okay.
staff.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
yes. Yes, there's,
Okay.
yes,
So not even 1% of the city budget. So
No.
we're still playing in very small fractions of a percent in terms of
yeah,
impact on
correct.
the budget.
Yep.
I mean, I think as we maybe I have one question, but I'll save it, I think, for the high slide.
Okay,
But good to know right now we're in the fractions of 1% range.
And also a question about just I guess the overall health of the city financially. Like I know 2020 and that era, the city was somewhat of like kind of a crunch or worried about finances. Is there growth? Are we seeing like, is there estimations based off of like possibility of expanding into like incorporating some of the incorporated Bothell? I know that was like a thing that was maybe discussed in the future. Is like, are we in good health? Is there in general, I guess what I'm trying to ask.
So, but Bothell is not financially, structure wise, ever like in too much of a growth phase. It's just not how we're made up currently as a community. The words that we hear when the finance department is happy about the budget are cautiously optimistic. I would say that we have been in that realm for the last few years. There has been less concern about having to take a look at hard cuts or things of that. We're not anywhere near where we were in 2020, where we were really looking at, we have some fund issues. I would say I've heard reports today that we are concerned that our revenue projections are not what we hope to be in this particular budget cycle. That is the case for many of the municipalities in the area. I just talked with the HR director at the city of Edmonds, who is preparing for her second round of layoffs, or was. She actually left the city. But she and is in a new position. That's public, by the way. I'm not creating news. But so you've seen that in other areas too, where there's been bigger concerns about the structure of the budgets. I would not say that's where Bothell is. So we are feeling a little better than that, but there are the revenue concerns that have been shared recently, and I would say the cautiously optimistic words still apply.
Okay. Thank you.
But that's a moving target that changes every 6 months, depending on the economy and all sorts of things.
Right.
Next slide. So these are some of the reasons that you might consider option 2. Again, potential reasons. When compared to household income, this option reinforces that council members are not being overcompensated. I think even with option 2, you definitely could say that. It acknowledges the growing complexity and time demands of being on the city council. A 50% increase is not anything to ignore, and so it is an investment, and it acknowledges the things that we've talked about so far and heard in the surveys. It does help remove financial barriers, whether it removes them or not, and whether it's enough to do that or not. It obviously, it's a significant increase and helps to do that. It aligns with equity objectives discussed by the commission. I would say it's strategic in that regard. It may not completely get to whatever those objectives are, but it does make a significant step. 5 Highest Cities is a forward-looking benchmark that addresses data inconsistencies. We do this sometimes in labor negotiations when we're looking at market data. So sometimes data is all over the place, right? And so you're like, well, you're looking at the median, but man, the median includes some really low cities. And so is that really a fair? And then you have this group of cities that are closer together, a group of market comparables that are closer to the top. And so by doing that, you're including less information about cities that may be lower, much lower than the median. And so it's definitely a forward-looking sort of benchmark. As far as addressing salaries, it's a very competitive way to think about salaries. And it signifies that the community values the council role and is willing to invest. And it also shows fiscal responsibility. It's strategic. You could definitely go higher than this, but it's a significant investment, and it could be something where, you're saying maybe this is a good step toward where we're going, but we're now going to meet annually. The commission meets annually, and so maybe it's the right time to take a step, but not go all the way. And so it's very strategic in that regard. Third option. Third option is the top option. It's the one you requested that I bring. So it is 50% of the median household income in Bothell, which the data from the census says that that's $66,160 annually, and that's what, if you use that, that's what would be paid to most of the council members. If you applied that 218.48% increase that would be provided to council members across the board, it would mean the deputy mayor is making $72,613 and the mayor is making $77,582. This option would put council members 212.16% above the median of neighboring cities and 72.18% above the highest city, which is the city of Kirkland. It places council members' salaries at that 50% of median household income. That's obviously the option it is, so I don't even know why I put that bullet point in there. And then it's an increase of $329,815 to the city budget, which is an amount. It is still relatively a small portion of the city budget. It would require a budget amendment, and so we would take that amount and put it in a city budget amendment. And if that budget amendment were not approved, like if the council thought that was too much to approve, essentially the city would have to look at how would we come up with those funds, and that dollar amount would mean an FTE or a program or something along those lines. I mean, what it would be, we don't know. We'd have to analyze that situation, but it is a fairly significant investment. It's an amount that would start a conversation about how are we going to come up with these funds if a budget amendment were not approved. I mean, and if a budget amendment were approved, the finance director was confident that there are funds there to cover that cost. Reasons you might consider option 3. It acknowledges the true scope of the city council's role. We've had lots of conversations about that. These are people that spend 20 hours out of their lives a week in some regards. It's a range, like some of them report 16 hours, some of them report 22. That's very consistent, by the way, with what we've seen year after year when we've asked city council members that at salary commissions. But it's a significant amount of time of their lives and requires them to sort of alter things in their life in order to be able to do it. It moves beyond symbolic compensation toward meaningful recognition of the role. I mean, they would be the highest paid city council members in the region outside of probably the city of Seattle. And so that is no doubt you're making a statement that the market doesn't align with how we feel these roles ought to be treated, and we're making a decision to go outside of that in order to recognize the significant amount of time that these folks spend in these roles. It helps remove some financial barriers. Obviously, it's the highest of the 3 options. It is at a level where it could actually encourage candidates who may not consider to run to consider it. It creates a clear data-driven formula that can be adjusted over time. You could not even attach the dollar amount to the salary commission or to your ordinance, it's not an ordinance, to your resolution that you'll be approving on and be taking a final vote on. You could just say, The salary for council members is 50% of household median, and the mayor and deputy mayor are adjusted accordingly, and tie it directly to the metric. And that would reinforce the idea that council service should be rooted in the economic experience of the community. And so if the community does well and the household median income increases, so does the salary of the council. If it does not, then that impacts that's a very, specific metric tied to the health of the community. It still remains well below full-time compensation levels. It's a part-time position. And as I think everybody has agreed with, that has participated in our process so far, and it's well below a full-time position. $66,000 is a real investment, but if you look at the data in the spread in the document that I gave you at the beginning, it's well below what most Bothell residents make for full-time positions. And it's substantive enough to promote broader participation in the city council. It is bold enough to have an impact on how people think about this role and about serving on the council. Next slide. This is the cost increase. I just kind of mapped it out in a different way of the three options, and you can kind of see the numbers there. Don't know what else to say about that. And it's pretty, you can see that the mayor and the deputy mayor are different than the council members and what that looks like. If you look at option 1, option 2, or option 3, if we need to come back to this slide later, we can definitely do that. Next slide. Question 2, do we want to stop now and discuss this, or do you want me to move on to benefits and we get through everything? And
Let's get through everything and then we can talk.
Okay. Question 2, does the commission want to add, take away, or keep the same benefit levels currently offered to city council members? If the decision is to add, then what benefits would the commission like to add? Next slide. Here are the potential benefit options that we talked about. There are more, but these are the ones that we see with other cities and specifically with the city of Kirkland. There are health benefit options, and I want to talk to you about that one a little bit. It's not as simple as providing health benefits. There is a participation requirement if we provide health benefits to our city council. And so if we don't meet those participation requirements, they're not eligible for the benefits, and we should discuss that as part of this discussion. That's true for medical, but not dental and vision. Correct.
Dental was 75%. Vision was 75%.
So that it's a 75% across the board.
Of the council members.
Medical too.
Medical's 50%.
Okay.
Disabilities is 100%.
Okay. So to offer them medical benefits, 4 out of 7 of them would have to participate, and to offer dental, 5, 7,
Vision,
5, 7.
75.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can't work that out. My head. We'll calculate that, but it's basically 50% participation for medical and 75% for dental and vision. Another benefit that was one of the more popular ones in our survey was a child care stipend, transportation allowance, bring your own phone, which is an interesting thing that I'll give you more information about. The city is considering this benefit for the entire organization. We used to have it. We took it away because of public records concerns. It's a different day and age with security and what you can do with records. And so we feel confident in bringing it back. If we brought it back today, council members would not get it because they don't get it unless you say they do. So we could talk about that. Deferred compensation at no cost to the city. They already have this benefit. Basically, they can participate and decide to contribute on their own to our deferred compensation program, but there is no match. So that is another benefit that's offered to city employees, is that we have a deferred compensation match. You can do that a number of ways. For city employees, it's based upon years of experience, or you could have just a flat percentage amount, which basically means if you have a 2% match program, they have to contribute 2%, and the city matches the 2%. That's an option. They're enrolled in the Washington Public Employee Retirement System. That's based upon the amount of salary they earn. So you actually don't get to choose that, correct?
They get to choose if they want to enroll.
Right. It's by law. Yes. So past salary commissions have put that in the final resolution, but it's really not your decision. It's the state retirement's decision, program's decision. And our council members are now eligible with the amount of salary that they earn. Low income stipend, we've had a lot of conversation about. We already offer a low income stipend. And then there's life insurance and accidental death and disability as well. Next slide.
That's 100% for EWC.
Yes. So, right, but we don't even enroll them, right? We just say they participate with the life insurance.
Yeah.
So with life insurance, we wouldn't even enroll them. If you said they got life insurance, they just all get. Potential reasons for adding benefits. Just another way to make the position more desirable. It does provide ways to reduce financial barriers, less so than salary, obviously, but they're, child care and things of that nature could reduce the cost of those things. Encouraging long-term in service, increasing institutional knowledge. You got a council member that serves for one term and they get health care because of that. They might consider serving a second term, no doubt, or a third term. It aligns with the city's DEI goals in the sense of providing them benefits that are provided to other city employees. They're not city employees, but it's the equity side of it, and also creating accessibility. Professionalizes the role. I mean, right now they get a stipend, but you're kind of saying with more benefits that this is a professional role and we're going to treat it as such. And so they have a benefits package like other professionals at the city. It recognizes workload demands in a number of ways. Some benefits recognize it more than others. Its cost is predictable and manageable. We know what benefits cost. We can budget for it. It is a way to increase compensation for the council that is not necessarily as expensive as salary, but offers a benefit. I don't know if they're called benefits. I don't know why I said that. And then it also aligns with the city's city initiatives, where we participate in the Association of Washington Cities Well City Initiative. We get our healthcare costs decreased by 2% because we do that. We think everybody should be healthy, and providing access to healthcare is one of the best ways to do that. And so it aligns with those city goals. And then it helps with late meeting attendance, and I'm sure that's referring to the child care and things of that nature. Next slide. You asked me to bring back the cost of our health plans. That's not a particularly easy thing to do because there's like 5 medical options and 2 dental options, things of that nature. So I basically provided you what the typical cost of health plans are. These are the benefit plans that are mostly used by our employees, but there are different medical plans options. There's high deductible options and Regents options and not group health, Kaiser options and things of that nature. But this is what the typical employee at the city, these are the plans that they enroll in, and these are the various costs depending on if they're just an employee and spouse, an employee and child. And this is for part-time employees because we've agreed that council's part-time position. And so these are the costs for what a part-time employee and a half-time position would get at the city. And you can see what the employee pays and what the city pays and what the total cost is. And so that employee portion of it would be taken out of their stipend if they enrolled in a benefit plan. Next slide. And then I put together some sort of annual health plan costs, looking at medical and dental and vision. Again, it depends on the council member. It depends upon their family situation. It depends on what plan they choose. So I kind of came up with an average and a high. I think depending on the council member, if they were allowed and participated in medical, dental, and vision, it would amount to per council member about $68,000 a year to $87,000 a year, depending on what plan they chose and all that sort of stuff. Jenny?
Your mic. Jenny, your mic.
Thank you. It sounds to me like because you have to have a minimum number of council members, when they're council members, they're not official Bothell City employees. Is that correct?
No, they are not official Bothell City employees.
Okay. And I assume that's
In
by some
accordance-
sort of, what's that?
That's in accordance with our health plan rules. So
Okay,
it's
so
a little.
there aren't options
it's a-
around that.
Yeah, so for some reasons, they're considered employees, for other reasons, they're not, like, they're not obligated to follow our personnel policies, for example, they have their own sort of council document, so it just depends, but for health plan reasons, they are considered elected officials and not employees, according to the plan document.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Next slide. This is really projecting because it just depends on what you do. Oh, one before. Perfect. Thank you. It just depends on what you do and also what level you do it. But I came up with, what the cost of medical could be, give or take, what the cost of dental could be, vision. Like if you did a bring your own phone policy, which the city considered what that cost could be annually. These are all annual costs. Transportation stipend, I based it upon what the city of Kirkland's transportation stipend for council members was. Also with childcare, I did that same thing. So you could see, like, based upon the decision and what benefit you provided, what the costs were. But for childcare, like a low income opt out, I don't know who's going to opt out. And I don't know who's got children and not, or who will in the future. We're going to have 2 new council members on January 1st, for example. And so I just simply said that 5 of the council members would get a child care stipend and 5 would get a low income stipend. But that obviously could fluctuate depending on who's on the council and whatever. But you could see, like, you can pick from the menu. If you want to do a child care stipend, it's going to cost you about $60,000 plus whatever you do for salaries, et cetera, et cetera. And this does not include the deferred comp match option, because that's depending on what percentage you decide and what the salary amount is. Like, it's pretty hard to project that. And once you decide, tell me we want to do a 2% deferred comp projection match and the salary is going to be this much, then I can give you a solid number on that. But without that, I really can't do that. And just a reminder, the whole point of why we're meeting last slide is to determine what options we want to consent on this evening and then take to a public hearing. And I'm going to shut up. Are there any questions?
This is great. Really
Yeah.
well thought out. I appreciate
Yeah, thank you.
different perspectives and the benefits of each one. So I really appreciate that. I want to go around. I don't want to start. So I kind of want to go around and like have everybody give their input on the presentation, and then possibly we can start discussing where we're lying, what feels good. I just before we start that, I do have a question. What if we are talking about an amount that is in between options? Is that a possibility, or will that delay?
Won't delay
It
anything.
won't delay anything.
You just tell me what the amount is.
Okay.
I mean, if you wanted the calculations related to that, might have to take 5 or 10 minutes to figure that out, but
Okay.
outside of that, no, it won't delay the decision if that's what no.
Okay. All right. Does anybody want to go first?
I was just gonna ask, could we maybe take like, I don't know, not a ton of time, but like 5-10 minutes? Like, I would kind of love to like write down my thoughts and compose them a little bit, maybe like flip back and forth through the presentation. Does that, and then we could go around.
Lauren, do you want to do that? And then maybe we can have questions
while you do that, is that possible just in the, to
Oh,
utilize?
oh yeah, sure. Yeah. I sorry, I didn't realize other folks had questions too.
Yeah, and Lauren, did you have a question about the high option? You said you might have a question.
Oh, yeah, no, I think you had already answered it because my question, well, I'll just verbalize. My question was gonna be same thing, percent. It sounds like it's still a small percent, but like what would that be? Like if there were to be a trade-off, what is the realm? But I think you said it's like a program or an FTE, so it's not like a huge like we don't change the whole nature of the budget by taking, 300K. We just, there would be a trade-off, but it wouldn't be like a monumental shift in the way the budget is allocated. Is that like an accurate statement?
It would be a trade-off either because they decided to trade something off in order to approve a budget amendment or a budget amendment
Right.
did get passed.
Right, that's right. That whole mechanism
If they
aside,
just
yeah,
simply if they pass a budget amendment, then
right.
the information I got from the finance director is he felt like that could be absorbed.
Okay,
But if they didn't, then we would, that's 320,000. You're talking 2.5 FTEs probably, give or take.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
but the decision, the trade-off doesn't have to necessarily be FTEs either. Like there could be other.
No. I know. I was just
Yeah.
trying to get an idea of like what is the scope, right? And I think I've got that. And I understand the mechanism. Like they don't have to have a trade-off, but just if they were to go down that route, what would be the nature of the trade-off, basically?
Right.
So yeah, that was my only question. I'm gonna step away for just a second.
Thanks. My question is related to the high option as well. And I was curious about with the household median income, I guess, what is that for all households? Is that for one individual households, one person households? And I'm curious how that aligns with the demographic data that we are looking at in the other packet. So it looks like in 2023, like a one-person household would be roughly 100% AMI would be about $80,000 for one person. And I know AMI and household median income are not exactly equivalent, but I'm just kind of curious about what number we use for the median household income for the city of Bothell.
I think that is an average of all households, so I'm looking at that to make sure that that's correct.
Yeah, I think this demographic report is actually really helpful for many reasons, but it's like also looking at like how the households in Bothell are broken apart. And looking at this like percentage of like 10% are 80 to 100% MFI, 13% of households are 50 to 80%. And like, to me, I feel like that's where I want to be in that, like, in that bottom middle. And I'm like thinking about that, I've been thinking about this a lot. And I want it to be like grounded in like some kind of formula and mechanism. And I really think that like the AMI percent, I really, I realize like the third option is a little risky and not exactly where I want to be, and considering like this civil service element of it, while also heavily weighing equity. I really want to be in that 60 or 70% of halftime AMI. Like that's where I feel like feels comfortable to me. And I want to like, and that's not considering the healthcare costs. So I kind of want to talk about how.
If I could add, so the reason why I'm asking this question is because I think if you think about like household income for one person versus for four people, that can be very different.
Yeah.
And I think it would be more within reason to think about just a single person household and say like, what's 50% of that? So I'm just curious.
So, yes, I got that, information, from census data. There's a dashboard about Bothell. It's census reporter. They don't. Not a data expert, but it's basically, there it is. It's 100, it's all median, it's all households. So I think what they've done is basically taken an average.
Is there a way to look at single person
Yes.
households?
There is.
Because I would imagine that would be substantially lower. And then if you think about it as a 50% of that, I think it would be I think it would be higher than average two, option two, but it would not be as high as the current option
Right,
three.
yeah, like, what I pulled was like 70% of AMI is 46,281, and 60% AMI would be 39,670.
That is, I think,
Without
it
the-
looks like this is from 2021 though, so we also would
Right.
need to get the more current version. So I would imagine it'd still be higher.
Oh yeah, this is using the 66, that's the number this is our top number.
Right.
Um. Huh. Let me. Well, I said it was gonna be easy. I'm sure it is. Just give me a minute.
Of course, yeah, take your time. I think other commissioners are reviewing as well.
I'm happy to share some thoughts while we're getting some calculations. I want to acknowledge that there's certainly valid thinking that the job is public service, because traditionally it has been. We know that traditionally it's a public service. We're paying you a little bit to offset. We appreciate your public service. What we've learned, however, is that approach limits who can afford to participate, which means that council ends up being a position of privilege. Those who can't afford or don't have jobs that give them the flexibility can't participate. And I think a big question that we have is, what are the values of the Bothell community? And are we trying to make sure that the whole community is represented, or only want those that have the ability to take this kind of a role? We traditionally underpay certain positions that are considered public service. Nonprofits employees is a good example. Oh, you're doing good for the community, you shouldn't be paid. But they're still competing with Amazon to hire the same people. So there's an element of right sizing the salary, which makes it really hard when you're looking at incremental growth. This incremental growth is you're giving them 60% extra. Well, yes, but what we're doing is right sizing a salary based on the work that's being done. So I just want to throw that into some of the thinking. I'm not landed on a particular place. I like kind of where the conversation is going, but I want to think about, are we trying to incrementally right size to what their time and work is worth? Or are we trying to say, no, we're going to put it at a level that recognizes their work and their requirement to act in an executive function and represent that, what a salary would be for that. So poorly worded. I think you know what I mean.
Those are actually similar to some of the things I've been writing down, so I'd be happy to go next unless anyone is really excited to go next.
I do have a calculation, so.
Yeah.
See, so I don't know. I don't know a lot about this data. So AMI, which is the area median income, which is different than the household median income, which is used by HUD. But it's not for Bothell, it's for the area, and the area is King and Snohomish County. 50% of that number would be had it. 51,275.
Is that for all households then? All households has it or single?
Just a single person.
Okay,
So that's 100% of AMI for a single person is $102,550. So 51,275 would be 50%.
Mhm.
That's according to DSHS.
All right, if I hop in here.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the things, Jenny, that I want to piggyback on. So first, I think you were saying this, but I just want to reiterate. I think I think what we're really talking about here is a shift in the like mental model of what is this role doing, right? We're saying, and I think we saw, I think I used this language in the last session as well. Like we saw two different mental models in the survey data. Obviously not statistically significant, all those things aside, that's the data we have is there's these two sort of models. We have, one group it seemed was represented was like, felt very strongly that this should be following the public service model. And we had another group that I don't know what I would call that model exactly. I haven't composed my thoughts enough to give it a name, but it's a different model, right? That's I guess maybe more like an executive role or like a traditional elected role in the community, which we do look at, I think, as public service to some extent. But the focus is different, right? The focus is on leadership in the community and making change in the community and representing the community versus public service, which is a much broader category of stuff you could do to contribute to your community. And I think what we're kind of all working towards is this public service model, like what you get when you think about compensating this position via this public service model is it's just not as equitable. Like we've been saying, like if you say this is public service, like turning up to, I don't mean to, and I guess I should say, I don't mean to denigrate public service. But we think about it differently. And it could be something like helping clean up a park. It's a good thing to do, but it's very different from being a leader in your community as an elected person and taking on all the time commitments that go with that. So it's just not as equitable with, for what we're looking at here. And then the other thing, we're all talking about, and, it's obviously the correct approach to look at like, what is the percentage? But I think we're saying like this role has evolved perhaps. And this, like the body of the council, maybe even has evolved if we're moving from one model to the other. And like I can think of from my time in my professional life, like it's actually not uncommon that as a role evolves within a company or as an organization evolves or as a company evolves, you say like, okay, well, we're looking at this whole thing in a new way. So we're forget what they're usually called, like a market adjustment. Like everybody this year is getting a bigger thing. We sort of look at it as its own thing rather than like, is it a continuation of a past pattern? Because we're saying, no, actually, we're changing the way we're looking at this, and here's why. And so I think that's sort of what I'm hearing. And I think I like option 2 and option 3 are aligned with that. And then the question is, of course, like where to land. I think we've all said this, but I'll just verbalize. I like the idea of tying to, I'm sorry, I'm getting the acronyms mixed up. If it's AMI or HMI, whichever one we feel like is the right metric. I really liked what you said, Matt, about like, this is tied to the success of the community. As the community grows, the council's like success or, compensation grows with that. So I think wherever we land, it should be a percentage of one of those. I like that approach for the base salary, just talking about. I would suggest making all of the stipends opt out. And like, I don't know, we could consider if we still need the low income stipend, but definitely like the phone and the transportation and the childcare. They should be there should you choose to use them. And then if you don't, then, and you feel like you don't need to be compensated for that, great, then you don't have to use it. That's a good chunk of the money in that second bucket. And then I think, healthcare, that seems to me like something, I mean, that's sort of already got a mechanism with the 75%. So, and then I guess I don't have a strong opinion on like what should be the number. I'm really curious to hear from everybody else on that, but I feel like we could find our way to a number that is a good in between of option 2 and option 3. It sort of sounds like that may be where other folks are heading as well. I just was like, I wrote down like, is the right number like 25% of 50%? I don't know. Happy to discuss and talk numbers, but I think what I'm supportive of in general is something that still signals our intent, like still says this is a change. And here's why, but like maybe it's a little more incremental without being too incremental, which is very hand wavy, but that's what product people are good for. So that's what I've got. But yeah, thank you, Jenny, for kicking us off. That I think it sounds like we're aligned there and how the approach that we're thinking about taking.
I don't have their data.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. I was just gonna, if we're still doing like the rotation thing, I was gonna chime in. But if there's like other stuff going on, we can
Go
save
ahead.
that for
No.
later. Yeah, I guess I guess I just want to say I agree with like definitely option 2 or 3, or maybe I'm kind of leaning to something more in between, but potentially leaning to something that's closer to 2. The reason for that is we definitely do want to like compensate our counselors for like the work that they're like actually doing. But I was just visiting the like, oh gosh, like the city job website just to see what's going on there. If we were to do 50% AMI, and I believe you said it was like the $51,000, that's pretty close to the starting salary for a full-time custodian. So I guess kind of the thing that I'm kind of worried about is, do we want to say, like if we go with something like around that number, are we wanting to say that a half-time position is close to the equivalent of the work of someone who's doing full-time for the city? And that's something I'm kind of wondering about. The other thing I'm kind of wondering about too is whatever decision we end up doing, kind of like the language that we use for it. So if we were to tie salary directly to an AMI percentage, my concern is like what I mean is like if we tie it to like, let's just like, for example, like 45%, for example. If we're to tie it directly to a percentage, we might be opening like a bit of a conflict of interest down the line, where if your salary is tied to the city, like everyone having a higher AMI, you might be less inclined to support like more like housing projects or apartments, or even like opportunities for like expanding like the colleges and stuff like that would ever pop up. So I guess I'm kind of worried about like creating like a perverse incentive if we tie it directly to an AMI percentage. But overall, in terms of like the actual like salary, I definitely agree with something like between 2 and 3.
Okay. That being said, so if we're leaning towards something in between 2 and 3, what I'm thinking is like, what is the number or percentage that we feel civic duty, that we're willing to sacrifice for civic duty is, I think that's in my mind, that's where I'm picturing, is what is the adjustment there? Because if we're not, if it's grounded in, if we're not paying the top end of 66 and we're not doing status quo, I feel really comfortable with the 60% AMI or 70% AMI. What's the difference? Because I'm looking at this and I'm realizing that if you're adjusting for full time, then that is considered low income. That would be right in the middle of the road of the lower half of the MFI, which is 13% of our population. And to me, that feels like an okay number, regardless of how many people are in the household. I feel like that might be maybe 65% of AMI and full benefits is something I would feel good about at the end of the day. Just knowing that, like, ultimately, this is not a role that's about really personal enrichment. And I really want it to be about the focus of the quality and the diversity of our governance in the city. And I want to be able to like lower that financial barrier to service. That is really important to me. I'm very happy about the governance in the city, and I want to continue with that quality into the future. And I think it'd be interesting to kind of test this model that's grounded in equity and but also considers, you know, the people who's here in Bothell right now and who is not being represented. So any thoughts on that? Jenny?
Yeah, I had a question because I just got a little bit confused. I had thought, and I could be wrong, that Matthew said that the 50% of AMI was the 51,000. So are you
Correct.
saying to go up from that? What was that?
I'm charging 50% AMI is, you said 50,000?
50, so
I thought that was
I think wording here is pretty important. The number I quoted, based on what Dennis asked, is 50% of AMI for a single household, one person. And that was 51,000, which coincidentally is about 4,200 a month, which puts you kind of right at what the top city in the data that you looked at is earning.
one thing I like about AMI and specific to Jeremy's concern is that AMI is the entire area rather than just the city of Bothell, which sort of attributes to solving the issue of, well, we don't want to bring low income people here because that'll bring down our salary, because it's not just the city, it's the entire region. So there's something that feels like it offsets that a bit.
Lori?
Yeah. I guess before I go, has everybody gone who wanted to go like the first time? I just don't want to like take up too much time.
I can add some things if people would like.
Yeah, I can hold mine. Go for it.
Okay. I'm also, this is a question out of left field. How many hours are there? So I'm trying to think about this a slightly different way, just thinking about 20 hours per week. And would it be 52 or 53 weeks? I guess how many hours you can
52.
52. So that's to me 1,040 hours in a year.
You use 2,080 for a full-time employee.
Gotcha. Perfect. That was the question I was asking. Sorry, I rounded that way. I'm just thinking like if you look at it from like an hourly rate, so like let's just say we pay $40 per hour for 20 hours. That's 41,600 for a council member. If we did like $45 for the deputy mayor, that would be 46,800. And then 50 would be for the mayor would be 52,000. And then you're paying kind of an hourly rate, which I think thinks about the work that they're putting in. I have a lot of concerns about the average of the 5 cities because I do think we're all slightly different, and I think that's very difficult to track over time. Um, I am more drawn to kind of a calculation related to either median household income or AMI. But I guess my question for the group would be, what happens if that goes down? Would we expect the council members to get less? So if it, goes down by $20,000, are we going to ask all the council members to take a salary cut? And so I'm just thinking, we have determined generally that, they're basically a halftime, putting in a halftime of effort. So it's, 1,040 hours. And then just thinking about what's a reasonable rate. That seems to me, and that also falls in between option 2 and 3, which I think is where I hear a lot of us wanting to be. So maybe thinking about it in terms of hourly and thinking about 1,040 hours and what would a good rate be for the type of work that they're doing would be an equitable way. The only other thing that I'll add is I think that some of the benefits by increasing salary, I think it's actually very equitable to not necessarily add benefits because their salary could be utilized for that. Or if you don't have those needs in your life, for example, childcare, you could put it towards something else that is part of your life. And so I do think that, I would encourage us to think more about salary and less about benefits, and maybe preserve the existing benefits. I know that there was a retirement issue that was described earlier and maybe addressing that. But aside from that, I would encourage us to stick with the current benefits and look at the salary. But I guess my offering would be, maybe we should think about it from the 1,040 hours a year perspective.
And what was that rate, did you say, per hour?
Well, I just looked at like 40, which is 41,600. 45 would be 46,800, and 50 would be 52,000. So those are my thoughts.
That feels good to me as well, to look into hourly rate. Yeah, it does seem like there's some concerns, and that is a valid concern to lock into a area income. If we're looking into area income, what happens when the income goes down? And that could be a problem. But I think grounding it in hourly wages feels good to me as well.
And then we can add a COLA to that as well for the future. And then, I mean, it could be revisited each year as well, but still.
Yeah. So first, thanks, Dennis. I agree that the hour, like, we should consider it from the hourly perspective. That's a good point also about the, like, what do we do if AMI changes, if we really did peg it to AMI? I think we've talked about before, like, we can't dictate the future decisions of future commissions, but I think it could be part of our sort of like, why are we like, taking this approach? So I think we could, I don't know, Matt, you can tell us if we're not allowed to do this, but we could say things, I think, in our final reasoning around like, hey, now that the council meets every 5 years, we recommend, or every year, we recommend that they look at an average of every 5 years to make a determination if they need to make a change based on changes in AMI. So maybe that's the way we bring in, like, continuing to consider AMI without opening everybody up to what is possibly just a logistical nightmare if you need to continue to recalculate AMI more often than you really need to and make little adjustments that might not be a huge consideration. The benefits, I feel pretty strongly about the health insurance one, that we should offer that. That's just, I think I'll try and stay off a soapbox here, but we have just an imperfect system where unfortunately part of doing work is being compensated by being able to stay healthy. It's not great, but we're all in it. And so I do think, yeah, I'm open. I agree. Like now that we're adjusting the salary, like I could take or leave the rest of the stipends, but I do feel pretty strongly about introducing the health insurance. And I think, as Matt called out, like there's a lot of sort of grounding in the DEI initiatives and the Well City initiative to like support that is a worthwhile investment. Again, sort of commensurate with shifting from like a public service model to this is like an actual person doing work for the city model. And Dennis, I don't know if you were speaking specifically about health insurance, so I'm not saying you were suggesting we don't do that. I'm just saying like out of the ones we considered, that's the only one that I feel strongly about keeping, I guess. And then last, like I did want to, the point about the custodian, Jeremy, is really interesting. I was having a think on that. Because we should be consistent in our reasoning if we're saying this is about equity. I do think though that like part of this is not to get too philosophical, but this is like a high leverage position, right? Like we expect that what's coming from these folks, the like outcomes and outputs and everything that they drive, like improves, like it should be the tide that lift all boats and all that stuff. So while I agree we should think about that, and we don't want to be in a scenario where like the percentage is like super huge, which I don't think any of these things are. I think it's okay. I think it's okay for this to be compensated commensurate with the expected outcome. And they're all accountable to that custodian, right? And all of us. So if we don't feel like, we're getting the results for that investment, we have a mechanism for that as well. So, but I did really appreciate you bringing that up. That's a really great way to look at it. I just don't know that we need to over-index on it, I guess would be my only response. That's what I got this time around.
Thank you. Jenny?
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the AMI because I do like the concept with the tides lifting all boats. I do like the concept that we're paying based on how well our community is doing. I think that the issue about if AMI drops, we now have a situation where we have a salary commission that meets yearly. Every 2 years, we do a full. I think we can easily say, it's calculated at AMI in December, which sets, the year. They don't need to recalculate it all the time. And that if the salary commission meets the next year and there's a huge change in AMI, then you have the conversation. And it's around what's going on in the community, what's going on in the city. And does it make sense that this council gets paid less because everyone's getting paid less? So there's that. I also think offering healthcare, even if it costs more, I get that it's going to be how many council members choose to be in, and there's probably nothing we can do on that. But I think having it as an option is important. I would suggest removing the childcare and low income pieces because we're offsetting that with a salary range. And I go back and forth about childcare, whether it should be just paid additionally or not, but definitely the low income stipend. If we drop both of those, that's $84,000 that we save, which makes the raise up to, whatever we come, feel a little bit better.
I put my hand up just to say one quick thing, which Jenny reminded me I missed because I didn't write it down, which is like all of these decisions, I think we can feel fairly comfortable that these are two-way doors, right? And the interval at which we make the decision is 1 year. So if any of this turns out to be like way off base, like it's not going to be that catastrophic. It is only 1 year and we can iterate. And I really like that we've already got that mechanism built in. So I think that makes me feel comfortable that like if we get a signal in a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years that this was the wrong path, like we can adjust, right? And I know nobody would love to have their salary go down, but like I'm going to trust that future commissions will be using good reasoning and would have good reasons for that. And that this, you know, I think that's the public service component, right? Is this isn't purely a transaction of labor for income. There is a public service component, and I would expect this to be the type of role where, like, if there was some catastrophic change to the city budget, like these would be people who would say, like, yes, please reduce my salary slightly so that we can continue to function as a city. So I guess I'm not worried about like a runaway compensation machine because it is still tempered by that public service element, right? Like everybody who's here, I think they're self-selecting in because they want to participate in a civic way. And so yeah, I think we've got a nice bunch of mechanisms surrounding taking sort of a big swing like this that, you know, we can talk about that in the reasoning around the change as well.
So, just a couple of things. One of you said you can't predict the future of what future commissions do. You can, because half of you are appointed for 4 years and half of you are appointed for 2. So hopefully you'll all be back next year, except for I heard one of you might be moving. And that's meant mostly as a joke. Secondly, as far as the AMI going up and down, what I would recommend, because we're not gonna monitor AMI on a daily basis or a weekly basis or even a monthly basis, is that if you were to tie it directly to that, and some of you said you may not want to do that, but if you were to tie it directly to that, you could say something along the lines of AMI as it reported during the time that the salary commission met in 2025. And then that way, if between the time that you met one year and the next year, you would guarantee it would go down. And if it were adjusted between those 2 times, you just meet about it and discuss if you want to do something different without it actually just artificially going down. So a commission would have to make the affirmative decision to lower council salaries, or you could decide we're not going to do that, or whatever commission in place.
In the interest of time, I'm just curious because what I'm hearing is no one supports option 1. I'm curious about option 2. It doesn't sound like any of us are firmly behind that, but if I'm mistaken, then let me know. But it sounds like we're mostly wanting to tackle option 3. So are we at that point where we can kind of dispose of 1 and 2?
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Okay. So if we're just thinking strictly about like an option 3, is this the current way that people want to bring it forward? Are there adjustments that we want to make to it? Or is there a second alternative that we want to bring forward?
Well, I think I heard 2 kind of clear, like, numbers. The one that you gave, $40 an hour, which would be 41,600, right? Okay. And then if I split the difference between the 60% AMI and the 70% in AMI, I don't have that calculation. I can do it real quick, but it's probably right around the same. Because 6% AMI is 39,670. 70% AMI is 46,281.
Cameron, when you say that, AMI for what number of households?
This is the 66,000. This is just without the adjustments for household. This is just like the plain 66 that we first talked about.
Okay,
That was
so
actually
you're talking
like
about median household income.
median, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the simple mechanism. So if 65, I have to do the calculation, it's similar, very similar to the 41.6. So we can maybe
So,
talk about both of those numbers.
I'm very confused because I thought we were talking originally 50% HMI, which was the like 66,000,
Yes.
or 50% AMI, which was like 50,000. So I'm questioning where the 60% of HMI comes from that ends up 40. I'm just without seeing the numbers, I don't know where the math is coming from.
So the 41,600 was grounded in Dennis's 40 hours a week. Sorry, $40 an hour.
Yeah, that one
$14 an hour at 1,040 hours, which is 41,600. So that one's not tied to any index, right? And then my number came from the original 66,000. And that was our ceiling that we talked about last time. That's what we gave the absolute highest that we would go. That we gave staff to estimate for us, and that is the
So you're
option
looking at
three. That's
60% or
option three.
75% of that number?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, and
All right.
so I have those two numbers. I have 60%, I have 70%, and I was thinking if we split the difference, or 60 to 70%, I mean, what do y'all think? Which is very similar to what Dennis.
I think the number ends up similar. I think it gets very confusing to explain how we calculated. Well, we took 50% and then we took 60% of that, rather than just say either maybe we take 40% of HMI or 50% of AM. I'm happy with taking a percentage of one of those indexes. I think it's very confusing to take a percentage of the index and then percent off of that, because it's just hard to follow for people trying to figure the math.
Yeah, I
Jenny?
agree. It should be a straight percentage of something to
So
make it easy.
I'm
Sorry,
comfortable with that. I was just suggesting the hourly as an alternative, but
Yeah.
it sounds like we're okay with indexing it, which is okay with me. I do think, Jenny, what I want to be careful of is just thinking about, if we're thinking about household income and it's more than one person household, which it sounds like it is, I'm just worried that we're like overinflating for like an individual. And so I just want to make sure that if we're
Sure.
going to talk about an individual, if it's a multiple person household, I would recommend like 25%, because 50% would be for a full-time person, and then 25% of that would be a quarter, which is half of one full-time person. Or if you just look at AMI for a one-person household, then you
Yeah.
could think about like 50%. I'm not sure, because I don't have the exact numbers here. I don't know which would be slightly higher, but I would either say like 25% of a multiple family household or 50% of a single.
Yeah, no, I
person.
totally agree. I think we want to make
Yeah.
sure we're being clear
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
taking the percentage that matches what we're looking at. I agree.
Exactly. But I'm okay with indexing it. I mean, and personally, I'm not sure if AMI is, I'm curious if people feel strongly about AMI or household income, because they are different numbers. I would recommend, again, leaning on the one that you can look at one person, as opposed to like an average.
Well, that being said, does anybody have a proposal? An idea? We can.
So, I mean, my proposal would be 50% of a one-person household. I think that's going to be lower than 66,000.
It is, it's gonna be
50.
about 50, yep, it'll put you about 4,200 a month.
So that would be my proposal, is 50% of a one-person household.
Which is total.
Here, I'll just get you the exact number, give me a sec.
Is that the 4,500? 40,500? The one that's.
So it's gonna be higher. It's gonna be
Okay.
about 50.
So, yeah. I lost my calculator because apparently I turned my phone.
We're not, this is like older and, you know.
So 50%, thank you. It's better than a computer. %50 of the area median income of the Seattle, Bellevue, and Everett metropolitan areas is $51,275 a year, or $4,273 a month.
And this is what we're considering would be the council member salary, and then there would be the standard percentages for deputy mayor and mayor.
Correct.
Can we go backwards on that? Can we say that's the mayor's salary and then go backwards on deputy mayor and council? I don't know that it makes sense. I'm just trying to figure out different options.
Do anything you
That's-
want.
The ceiling
That's
just
just-
feel, I think that being, whatever numbers we're talking about, I'm thinking of the highest, I think, not, the average, so. 51,000.
So that would be the mayor's salary.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd say
Mhm.
the mayor's salary less X% for deputy mayor, less X% for council. I think that is more than reasonable given the most recent increase.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still talking about a COLA, right? So,
Yeah, you could build in a,
Well, that automatically changes as the AMI changes
sure, yeah.
right, I'm just saying, yeah, like it's not.
theoretically. And if
Yeah,
I
I'm
like-
supportive of that as well.
I like
So-
Jenny.
That would cause some staff confusion that I'd like to clarify. So I don't know exactly when AMI changes. I think the last numbers were reported in 2023. So it's not like, well, let me figure that out. Before I ask my question, discuss amongst yourselves.
Okay, so I just am gonna repeat, I think what we're saying is 51,275 becomes the mayor's salary with health benefits. With
Oh.
the. Sorry,
AMI is updated once per year, usually in the month of April.
Okay.
So that makes it easier. You could just say AMI and we could check it once a year. Or you could agree on a flat amount that's equal to AMI and we could apply a COLA to it. I don't know.
Another way that we could do this, if we wanted to, just putting it out there, would be instead of 50% of AMI, we could say, and instead of making that the mayor's salary, we could say something to the tune of 45% of AMI for council, and then the increase, the step increases for deputy mayor. So 45%, you said it was roughly, it's 102 currently, 102 and what?
550 was my number calculation.
102, 550.
So if you were to do, are you asking me what's 45% of AMI?
I'm just curious what the total number is for a single person household for AMI currently. You said it was 102,000.
Yes.
And what?
100, okay.
It looks like we did the 45 based on the 102, 550. It'd be 46, 147 and 50 cents.
Yeah, that's why I get to.
And then you build deputy mayor and mayor off of that.
Yeah.
So that'd be council salary, and then are we going
It would
up or
be-
down for this one?
You go up.
going up.
So
Okay.
this would be
Okay.
the.
So
lowest
then you go
end.
up.
Gotcha.
This would be council, and then mayor would be closer to 50%.
Yeah.
That's just as opposed to doing it mayor first and then subtracting, you
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
start at 45.
That works.
yep, that works.
I like that.
And
I
yeah,
do too.
and then again, just to verbalize everything around that, we're not taking away the possibility of COLA, we're adding in healthcare, we're removing the low income
Low income,
childcare,
yeah,
pop,
stipends.
transportation. We're keeping the retirement plan as is. Because we're making.
Question, is transportation something that just all staff gets, so it's easy to have council get as well?
No, all staff does not get it.
Oh, okay, then,
I think we included that just
Hey.
because we were like looking at everything Kirkland had done and that was
Yeah.
one of the buckets. So
yeah, that's fine, that's fine. I'd
They
rather
do-
have
they-
it more
they-
closely aligned to staff.
They do get travel reimbursement now for
right.
events, city business related items. What they don't get it for is like community events, going back and forth to council, things of that nature. But if they go to like something on behalf of the city, they get that covered. Thank you.
Doesn't that
Okay.
include like traveling
So-
the country too, or no? Is that?
Okay, I just need to make sure we've got everything down here. Cause I'm getting different numbers for AMI right now. So I just want to make sure that what we agreed to is absolutely right. The numbers aren't so different that it significantly impacts your decision, but I'm a little. I see. That's 80%. Everything we show is 80%. Why doesn't it just show us that? Okay. So I'm gonna do a bit of testing. Because want to be confident this is right. That's a third number. Third number. Oh, because they just recently changed.
Hmm. In the previous packets, I think we have the arc, ARCH.
I'm going directly to the source at this point.
Okay.
you working out, yes. Just have these numbers all in your head.
I thought it was 113,000 for Seattle.
Well, the number that I quoted you earlier was, what did I say? And then I got 110. And then I just calculated on King County Housing Authority site, and it said 106, which is the third number.
Is it possible to give you time to go figure that out and then send us the information? So that we can all just go, yeah, we're good with that?
Well, we might need to make a decision like now while we're meeting is I think if we don't want to mess with the schedule again.
I thought we weren't voting today, though.
I think we need to make a decision about how many more meetings we need at the very least.
Oh, good point. Okay.
So if we're like, we're good, I don't want to interrupt the calculations too much, but it sounds like these numbers are all very close. I'll just say for me personally, I don't think the exact number is going to change my decision at this point.
I would agree.
Okay. All right, so that, because now I'm getting a fourth number. It's all over the place. So I'm gonna go figure out where is the direct source for the AMI data. But it's anywhere between, what did I say first, 105 to 110,000?
Yeah.
So it's in that ballpark. And I will
Yeah.
get you a specific number. And you're looking for 100% of area median income in the Seattle, Bellevue, Everett area for a single family household. That's what we're looking for. Okay. All right.
If for one person, the 80%, which is what they report, is 84,850.
Mhm.
So you'd need to add another 20% to get.
Yeah, and that's, you do that?
Yeah.
I'm not trusting can you, because I'm,
What are we doing?
so take that number and times it by 1.2.
That's why I'm suggesting maybe we give staff time to go get the actual numbers rather than try to do quick calculations to see if it sounds like it should be, if we can figure out what the actual numbers are, if we're all in agreement with the plan, the theory of how we're going to do it.
So if based on those numbers from King County, that would put it at 101,820, which is about
What we started with.
So 102, it's it's slightly over $100,000. So I think we should say 45% of single family area median income and bring that forward.
Yep.
So 45% of the council member, and then what I heard was
Whatever the increases are for current increases for deputy mayor and mayor,
okay,
Same ratio.
the
Yep.
same ratio.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, and then what I will do is make sure that you know what those numbers are before you vote.
Yes.
Okay,
Perfect.
okay, and so I want to make sure the benefits discussion went kind of fast. So I heard health, medical, dental, and vision, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and so if they don't meet the 50% threshold, they don't get, or 75, that just means they don't get the benefit.
I don't think we have a choice in that, so.
Yeah, that's just the structure we're stuck with.
Okay. Okay, so I heard, life insurance,
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull, can you go back to the options page so we can run through that list? No, the options, the main slide.
There you go. Oh, next. There you go. No,
Excellent.
next.
Next. You're going backwards.
They were saying next.
Oh,
backwards.
Yeah. And that-
This one?
No, the one that lists all the options. Perfect. That one. Okay, now, one more, sorry.
Nope,
I'm getting late.
there you
This
go.
one.
Oh, that's it. So medical, dental and vision, yes. Childcare stipend, no. Transportation allowance, no. Do you want to make them eligible for bring your own phone if it's eligible for all city employees?
Yes,
Sure.
Okay, deferred compensation at no cost to the city is a current benefit. Do you want them to keep it?
Yes.
Yes,
yes,
But no,
Yep.
but no match program.
I support the match program. Isn't that what somebody had requested?
Yeah, match.
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
I support that.
Yeah.
Yep,
What percentage of match?
Same as city employees.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
same
make
as
it
staff.
fair.
Non-rep.
So if you give it then the same deferred comp match as not city employees, that means for their first 5%, 5 years, they will get 0. For their second 5 years, they'll get 2. For the
Hmm,
5 to 10, for 10, so then it goes up to 10, and then after 10, they get 3, and after 15, they get 4.
We should make it the same.
Mm.
But most.
So do we say-
And the most, council only goes 2 terms usually, right? Like that's really that's the average.
Right, but I just.
Yeah, I mean,
I
just
wouldn't
we
wanna
say
see that
2%?
as a system.
keep it the same, yeah.
I'm good with the
So I
flat
hear-
percent.
Same, what did Lauren say? Sorry.
I think I heard someone say, let's keep it a flat percent, and I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What would we like that percent to be?
Should we say 2, since that's kind of the average of how long a city council person lasts?
Good with that.
So now I hear 2 proposals.
Wait, two what, 2 terms? 2 terms?
2%.
2% across the board.
I'm indifferent, yeah, sure.
I support keeping it aligned with the rest of the city, but if everyone else prefers something else, then that's okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna bring you back 2% deferred comp match, since that's what I heard from most of you. Unless somebody wants to make an argument of why I shouldn't do that. Low income stipend, I thought I heard no.
No,
Yep,
Correct.
remove.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so. Medical, dental, vision, if they qualify. Are eligible, life insurance, 2% deferred comp.
And
Yes.
bring your own
What?
phone, I think we said.
And bring your own phone.
Yes, bring your own phone, and then also enrollment in the public employee retirement system.
Yeah, that's pretty much automatic with the amount of salary that you're giving them.
Yeah.
Okay, and then.
Good.
45% of one person household AMI. And adjusted for the deputy mayor and the mayor based upon their percentages.
Yes.
Any
Success.
other? Okay. I also need to know when you want to meet.
So I'll just throw out I am traveling for work again. The week of the 21st of October.
Okay.
I am fine if y'all want to meet during that week. I just won't be able to help you meet quorum. That's all.
Hmm.
So if we
I
can
have
meet
that on
next
my
week.
calendar.
Yeah, I don't think I provided it originally. I'm sorry about that, because I think originally it just magically worked around it, but then when we shifted by a week, now it's different. So apologies for that.
So we need 10 days
I-
to do a public hearing.
Okay.
So if we stuck with Thursdays, it would have to be October 23rd or October 30th.
I think we should do the public hearing on October 30th, and that gives us enough time to report to council.
Yes,
Okay,
That'd be fine.
that was my last
I can do that.
question.
okay.
30th works.
Great.
How do you want to communicate this decision?
What are the options for that, I guess?
Well, if you don't tell me anything, I'm going to notify the council of the preliminary decision. And I'm going to tell them that there is a public hearing on this date, and they're welcome to come give feedback. The communications team at the city will be giving the information, and they'll choose to message that to the community and make the public hearing available or announced how and they'll handle that. Another option would be you could come to a council meeting and you could explain to the community, this is the decision that we've made and why, but you might wait till you've actually made the decision. Because right now, all you've done is taken something to the public hearing. And you, to be clear, you have 3 weeks now to change your mind. And then
Yeah.
vote yes or no on whatever your final decision is. But
Sorry to interrupt. I'm actually never looking at my calendar, and the 23rd would be better. Personally, I might have to be virtual. Is it possible to be virtual for a public hearing?
yeah, we could do that.
Okay. I can do the 30th. I just may need to be virtual. So I didn't. realize it.
Yeah, I should be able to do either, but also virtual.
I can be in
Yeah.
person on 23rd.
I can do the 23rd or the 30th, so I'm happy to do either.
Yeah, the 23rd will just be difficult. I'll be on East Coast. No, I'll be on Central Time, so that will, and it wouldn't be great for me to dial in from my work laptop. So I would,
Fair.
again, I'm fine if everybody else wants to do the 23rd. I just won't be there. I'm happy with that outcome, but I just can't attend virtually or otherwise. So just depends on if you all have enough without me. Guess
I'm
nobody
fine with
gets
the
sick.
30th. I just may need to be virtual. So it sounds like 30th works better.
I'm okay with either.
Okay.
So it sounds like everybody's available on the 30th, but different people might have to be virtual. On the 23rd, Lauren doesn't feel like she can come. Is that, so everybody's good? That's accurate? And so right
Yeah.
here, we're gonna pick October 30th.
Okay.
Is that, that's what I heard. You guys make the decision.
Yeah.
That's
So,
Okay,
what everybody need to be there?
no, we can do it virtually.
Okay.
We're gonna do it in that room. We're gonna have you on Zoom. It'll just be like a council meeting.
Okay.
Same.
Okay.
Same deal. If public does show up, you will have a script that'll explain what the purpose of the public hearing is and what they can do. And it'll basically be, you can come up to the podium and give your opinion, and you have 3 minutes, whole show.
When do you vote? When do they vote?
They would vote, so they would, the agenda is essentially, you have that meeting. We gave a short presentation and say, this is the decision that you wanted to bring to the public hearing. There'd be a public hearing, so basically you'd open it up. People would come talk if they wanted to come talk. You'd close it out. And then after that, it would be deliberation, and one of you would decide to make a motion and second it, and then you would vote on the final decision. And you could decide to vote everything and just vote on the whole thing. I'm gonna bring you a resolution that's gonna outline everything that you said here. But you could decide, we need to vote on these one apiece. Yeah.
Okay.
That's never happened. It's always just the commission's voted on the entire resolution. It's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds great.
Right.
And about that, you were saying having the speech. rationale for that.
I will have a draft document
Okay,
for you to review. It will be in your packet before the meeting.
Okay.
And we'll put on the agenda item probably after this session, because you changed your decision, that document kind of gets thrown out the window. And so, we can have a point on the agenda for you to discuss that document and what you might want to change or say differently, or.
Okay. So our next meeting is the 30th, and it's a public meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Cool.
All right.
and you're officially adjourned, unless there's anything else we need to discuss. Nope. All right, thank you all.
Okay.
Thanks all.
Cool.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
See you on the 30th.
Yep, see you then.
Bye.